Unacademy. Let's crack it.
हेलो एवरीवन, दिस इज पीयूष। आज से कुछ समय पहले एक फिल्म रिलीज हुई जिसका नाम था ओपनहेमर। फिल्म काफ़ी पॉपुलर हुई, लोगों ने काफ़ी पसंद किया एंड द फिल्म वाज बेसिकली बेस्ड ऑन ए पर्सन हु हैज़ इन्वेंटेड एटॉमिक बॉम्ब। लाइक लेट मी शो यू द पिक्चर और द पोस्टर ऑफ द फिल्म। दिस इज द पोस्टर ऑफ द फिल्म। अगर आप ये पोस्टर देखते हैं तो ऐसा लगता है कि एक ऐसे इंडिविजुअल या पर्सनालिटी के ऊपर बेस्ड है who has really made some great contribution to the society and the world. But frankly speaking, I do not think that this poster is genuinely justifying the contribution of this person. I believe that this poster is more justifying like what exactly this person has done. Like the statement, can you see here? Now I have become death, the destroyer of worlds, Robert Oppenheimer. Whether this was a contribution or a curse for the society and the world, when did we realize it? We realized it on 6th of August 1945 जब अमेरिका ने जापान के ऊपर एटॉमिक बॉम्ब गिराया और न्यूक्लियर बॉम्ब गिराया. So this is the reason because of what we are having this lecture, that we can really understand that what is the story behind it. But when it comes to understanding the story behind this dropping of atomic bomb or the nuclear bomb on Japan, I think we can understand it with respect to certain pictures. And the reason because of what we have been celebrating the Hiroshima day on 6th of August. When it comes to like the history behind it, let me tell you that we will be able to understand it only with respect to certain pictures. So I'll be just showing you certain pictures. This is one picture that was the situation immediately after this like dropping of bomb. Then we can see some more pictures. This is another picture. This is another picture. This is the whole area which were affected by this particular incident. That's another picture of the desertation of Hiroshima immediately after that. When it comes to understanding that what exactly has happened over here, I think the words or the pictures are not sufficient to tell you. जो बर्बादी का आलम उसके बाद हुआ था उसको समझाने के लिए I think words are not sufficient or the pictures are not sufficient. If we'll really try to understand it with respect to the devastation which took place, in that case I can just tell you, I can give you certain figures or let's say some other things in order to make you understand that what are the results of it. So roughly around 7 decades back, the world witnessed the first ever atomic bombing when the United States detonated a nuclear bomb over the Japanese city Hiroshima, which is majorly known for its industrial activities and at the same time like the military activities, and probably that was the reason because of what Hiroshima was decided as the place where this atomic bomb must be detonated, right? When you see this bombing has happened, and it was I guess in the morning time, 8:15 in the morning when the bomb was dropped. जापान में एक नॉर्मल डे था, मॉर्निंग का वक्त था, सवेरे लोग अपने अपने काम पे जा रहे थे, बच्चे स्कूल में थे, and this was the whole situation. It was believed to be a sunny day. People were either going to the offices or they were in the market. As I told you, the kids were present in school, and in this particular situation this incident took place. And when this incident took place, so it killed roughly around 1.4 lakh people. That number is literally a great number. When after a particular incident you see that such a great number of people died. So I think this number itself is sufficient to prove that what was the impact of this particular incident. But then again, I must say, if you'll see this number also, this number does not define that what was the reality. If you really wish to understand the real contribution or the real impact of this, then we can say that the impact of this was not only noticed immediately after that, but this continued for decades. And in fact, I must say that it is still continuing. It is believed that roughly around 39% people of this city died, and even after that we can find the effects of the radiation in coming couple of months. And as I told you that roughly around 39% people died over there. So 3 days later, like they did the same thing in another city called as Nagasaki, and there again we can find that around roughly around 74,000 people died. As I did tell you that when it comes to this particular incident, the impact of this, specifically the radiation, the impact of radiation, that could be noticed even in future. कहते हैं कि उसके बाद जो बच्चे पैदा हुए, they had some mental disability or let's say some physical disability. In fact, जो pregnant women थी, जितने भी उनके बच्चे हुए उस समय, उन सब के साथ वो mental disability या फिर physical disability देखी गई. और आज भी after 7 decades I must say कि the people in Hiroshima and Nagasaki and around this region, they are more prone to the cancer. Why? Because the radiation of this bomb is still active, and probably this is the reason because of what is happening. So I think these figures are somehow able to convey this idea that what was the impact, or what were the impacts in fact of this, like this particular incident. So when it comes to Hiroshima and Nagasaki incident, we have to understand it with respect to slightly the history. So when it comes to history, I must say that it was done on 6th of August 1945, and then American B-29 bomber dropped a bomb that's called as Little Boy. It was on the city of city of Hiroshima, and then as I told you, Nagasaki, and this bomb was called as basically Fat Man. So that incident took place over there, right? So what is the history behind it? So when it comes to understanding the history, so this is the one picture. This picture is of the crew members, those who were part of this particular incident, right? So that we need to understand with respect to the Second World War. Look, as far as this Second World War is concerned, Second World War is a very popular, popular incident in this world, and in fact, आज भी हम मानते हैं कि इस दुनिया में अगर कोई बहुत बड़ी घटना अगर हुई है, तो हम कहते हैं कि it is First World War and the Second World War. But when it comes to Second World War, the seeds of the Second World War could be noticed immediately after the various peace treaties signed, specifically the Paris Peace Treaty, or else we can say the Versailles Treaty. जो सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर है उसकी भूमिका कहीं ना कहीं पहले विश्व युद्ध के बाद ही तैयार हो गई थी. पहले विश्व युद्ध में that Versailles Treaty was signed, and in fact it was a very humiliating treaty which was imposed over certain countries like Germany and all. So Germany since then had been preparing for the another war, and in fact, as you all know, that imperialism was another important thing which was there. So we can say that all these things combinedly prepared the ground for this. So basically what happened, once Germany was defeated and a very humiliating treaty was imposed over it, where it's let's say economic prosperity was checked. ये तय कर दिया गया कि जो है जर्मनी कितनी सेना रखेगी, ठीक है. जर्मनी के लोगों को काफ़ी बुरा फील हुआ, और इन सब ने उस सिचुएशन को पैदा किया जिसकी वजह से from 1919 itself, the background, in the background, the preparation of the Second World War started. So there are several things which are happening after that. So first of all, I'll tell you that in order to take this revenge, specifically the people from Germany, they were very much desperate, and somehow that provided this opportunity to a leader called as Hitler. And Hitler was that person who promised, I'll get you back the same respect what Germany used to enjoy earlier. And that's the reason people gave him support in anything. And as a result of that, a very aggressive nationalism which is coming into existence here. So Italy is in very first year, Italy came up with a concept of fascism. As I told you that it was nothing but a kind of very aggressive nationalism. So इसकी शुरुआत इटली से होती है, और इसको further Germany लेके जाते हैं when it is coming with this idea of Nazism, a very aggressive nationalism. And in fact, as I told you that from here onwards you can say that Germany started preparing for the Second World War. So जिस तरीके से इटली और जर्मनी अपनी प्रिपरेशन में लग जाते हैं, और उसके बाद थोड़े समय के बाद कुछ और भी चीज़ें ऐसी वर्ल्ड में होती है जिसकी वजह से जो है कहीं ना कहीं सेकेंड वर्ल्ड वॉर को सपोर्ट मिलता है. Germany was already preparing for it, and then you see that after Germany you see that even some other incidents that primarily includes basically the Great Depression which is coming in 1929. The Great Depression was such an incident in the world which had really destroyed the economy of this world, and in fact most of the world, or most of the countries of the world, were suffering from this Great Depression. And the Great Depression also becomes one reason. And in fact, either at one hand you can talk about USA, then like the European countries, specifically the developed countries of Europe, and then even Japan were also facing the same problems. So ये दोनों चीज़ें मिलकर एक ideal environment बनाती है जहाँ पे Second World War somehow became unavoidable, and then like ultimately it took place. So Second World War that started from 1939, and in fact some other things which were also somehow like facilitating this the development of like the Second World War was basically the policy of appeasement that also failed. What is this policy of appeasement? So policy of appeasement में आप देखते हैं कि जो European countries है, specifically Great Britain and France, like once they saw that Germany is not doing nothing but preparing for the Second World War, so at that point of time it could have been controlled. तो इन लोगों ने ये कोशिश की कि when Germany is trying to do certain such activities which were against the Versailles Treaty, at that point of time probably they could have they could have controlled the situation. They could have at least at least removed all those humiliating provisions of the Treaty of Versailles. But then like they tried, but somehow it could not become very successful. So and apart from that, like imperialism was also going on, and in fact some new contenders were coming in this imperialism. America was one of them, and of course Japan is also one of them, and Japan was also emerging as a kind of greater power in Asia. So that's how the power balance like in this particular region was completely changing, and because of this ultimately this started. So undoubtedly it started from Europe, but then very soon you can see that America and Japan are also becoming part of it. And the beginning of this, the rivalry between basically USA and then Japan could be noticed with this Pearl Harbor incident, when like one of the coastal cities of America was attacked. Though initially it was done by Germany, and initially America or USA was not pretty sure that whether they should participate in this war or not. America की हालत like immediately before the Second World War was not very good, because America had been also facing this Great Depression, and for last 1.5 decade they had been trying to come out of this. So since American economic or financial condition was not very good, and that's how they were very in a vague situation that whether they should contribute in this world war or not. Now as far as America is concerned, I must say you that America from the beginning of 20th century had been trying to come into the world politics, because the internal situation in America has gone through a kind of drastic change. America now has become a kind of supreme economic power, and in fact it wanted to capture the economy of the rest of the world. America itself wanted the deindustrialization, sorry, imperialism, it wanted to finish this imperialism. Reason that if imperialism is getting over, in that case they'll be getting this chance to spread their economy in the other parts, and they never wanted that imperialism policy should be continued further, because if this policy is continued further, in that case undoubtedly several problems America might have faced, and that's the reason because of what from the beginning of 20th century you can find that America was deeply into this kind of politics. So when Germany attacked on USA, and then further it was followed by Japan, so I think now there was no option left for USA, and then USA is also coming into like this picture. But when USA came into this picture, and then over the period you can see that the whole world again got divided into two segments. So one power which is known as the Axis power, and the second is known as Allies power. So as far as Axis powers are concerned, so there you can find Germany, Italy and Japan. Primarily these three countries are part of it. On the other hand, the moment you will talk about the Allies power, at that point at that side you can find that the countries like Britain, then you can talk about France, then Russia, right, to some extent China, and undoubtedly USA are there on this other side, right. So that's how the way this arrangement of the countries have happened. So as a result of that, ultimately it also converts itself into a world war, right. But when this world war started, of course there are several incidents have happened. There were so many wars being fought on different fronts, but then it is not very important for us. You all know that the world war continued for a longer period of time, and it is one of the wars which continued for 6 years, and in fact the kind of destruction created or caused by this created by this war, that's something which was undoubtedly against the humanity. And probably this is the reason because of what the whole world realized कि we must try to stop any such kind of incident happening ever in future. So that was done, but before that this destruction has already taken place. But this destruction was ultimately concluded, or it was the conclusion of this is coming with one of the one of such incidents which is really against the humanity. As far as Europe is concerned, by the month of April 1945, most of the wars got concluded. Again, the Axis powers were defeated, and they more or less they had surrendered by the month of April 1945. But Japan was one country which was still active in this war, and there was some internal problems were there in Japan as well. Initially Japan was doing very good because Japan was another country which got industrialized. But once Japan got industrialized, so probably Japan was also facing the same situation which was being faced by USA, and that's the reason because of what USA was very scared of Japan. So when this world war was concluded in Europe and Japan was still very active, and the way Japan was approaching toward Indochina and then Russia and all these regions, so because of what now USA thus thought of concluding this war, and in fact it is believed that the President of USA, Truman, was giving regular threats or regular, let's say, warnings to Japan, surrender, otherwise you might face some such kind of results. So that was very frequently coming from their side. So finally, when Japan did not surrender, and then these two incidents took place, and I have already told you about these two incidents which are about the detonating of bombs, atomic bombs or nuclear bombs in Hiroshima and Nagasaki. And finally these two incidents, in fact back to back these two incidents, which had really let's say warned the whole society, the whole world, and finally Japan has surrendered. Now why was it done by USA? That's really a kind of surprising thing, as it's not true that USA was not aware of the results or the impacts of this detonating of bomb, the nuclear bomb on Japan. But then there are different theories which are there. At one hand, there's one theory that since Japan was trying to capture such regions which were very which were very prosperous in the oil reserve, and USA somehow was not liking this, and that's the reason because of what USA was trying to remove Japan from this competition. That's considered to be one reason. But there is another theory which is very popular, and this theory says that USA at that point of time wanted to show their power to rest of the world, that when it comes to negotiating with the other powers, this incident might help them in negotiating, specifically when it comes to Russia, as you all know that Russia has also emerged as a world power, and in fact it is not really a kind of war between Russia and USA. You all know that it was a war, it was a fight, it was a clash of two ideologies, right? Two great powers. One is representing capitalism, the another one is representing socialism. So that another theory says that since USA wanted to keep USSR in the back foot, because of what ultimately they are coming up with this idea. But whatsoever reason is there, politics is very different from humanity, and in fact whatever USA has done, undoubtedly USA has shown its negative character to the whole world, because as I told you that the impacts of this still continues. That's the reason because of what we are still celebrating on 6th of August, the Hiroshima Day, because it's very much important to show this rest of the world that if because of some political crises, any country takes such certain kind of decisions, that ultimately goes against humanity. And the moment it comes to humanity, I think we all should understand one point, that humanity cannot be confined within the boundaries of the nations or the countries. Humanity is something which is much more beyond that, and in fact whenever there is a political clash or political rivalry between these two countries, it should not be summed up, it should not be ended up in this way. Probably celebrating the Hiroshima Day on 6th of August is one of the best way to avoiding such kind of incidents once again, and we are really very grateful to the countries of the world that after realizing this, fortunately this kind of thing was never repeated again, and we believe that in future never such kind of incidents won't take place ever. That was our expectation. That's all about this Hiroshima Day. So thank you very much.
Unacademy. Let's crack it.